Now, you know I joke that and request you to buy all my books because I've made no further provisions for my family's future. And it's not really a joke, it's true. But I didn't bring very much to sell this time. I'm sorry. There was like a pagan pride festival down in Long Beach last week, and I took a bunch of stuff down there, and I was completely surprised that I sold it all. Yeah. So I've got a few things left over, but what I really have almost a whole lot of are my CDs. Okay. And one just came out a couple of weeks ago. And this one came out in March. It's called I'm Babylon, and this is Babylon 2. Please, I truly, I'm not asking you to listen to this. Okay? But if you'd buy it, I'd really appreciate it. So I've got a quantity of these, and a couple of copies of my novel, Accidental Christ. Now, if you're easily offended, buy it. Or give it to someone who's easily offended. I've got a couple of these too. This just came out. It's volume 1 of the Best of the Equinox series. So there's gems from the Equinox that Rigardi edited and put out about 35 years ago. And that will always probably remain in print, in hard copy. If it goes out of print for 5 years, it'll be back in print in another 5 years, you know. But it's really big, and there's material that Rigardi, of course, thought was important, including the great big Blavatsky article and a few other things. But Weiser wanted to do something more accessible, and so instead of tinkering with the venerable gems from the Equinox, they wanted to gather material from both the Equinox Volume 1 and Volume 3, number 2 being, well, it's a long story, and organize it sort of by subject matter, and they've asked me to edit it and curate it and introduce it and stuff. And so the first volume 1 is the Enochian material from the Equinox. And if you've got a set of the Equinox, the 10 numbered set, you really, my introductions, I have 2 introductions here, won't really be worth the $18. Okay, I'll email you the introduction. But if you don't have the Equinox material and you're interested in the Equinox Enochian material and have it in one place, you might think about getting this book here. So yeah, I'll be happy to sign them and put a little obscene cartoon in it, anything that
which will make them collectible.
No, actually, you might want to think about holding on to a rare unsigned edition.
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Love is the law, love under your will.
I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to Horizon Lodge and to welcome our guest, Lon DuQuette. I'm going to at least pretend to be talking about practical magic and integrating it in your life. And I've just chosen main categories here of Goetia, Enochian, and Kabbalah, when, where, and why. Actually, we could just say why. And the answer is, I don't know. And we could break and have lunch. I do know why. Most people are interested in magic, in the Western magical tradition, because they feel some kind of attraction to the art form. And if you just keep that in mind, that you were attracted to this because it somehow resonated with the magical artist in you, then you'll keep stuff in perspective.
I don't know why I got into all of this stuff. I grew up in the 60s, okay? I graduated from high school in 1966. Cue the sitar music, okay? And I moved to California for the purpose of pretending to go to college. But what I really wanted to do was score some LSD. And I'd heard about this, I'd read about it in like Time magazine and Life magazine and Newsweek. But it was art that got me interested. I was a musician, okay? I'd been in a band since I was 14, and I was just a lucky musician in so much as I worked. And I got a lot of work. And my father was ill, and family needed extra money. And I was just lucky enough from the time I was 14 till I graduated from high school to work not only every weekend, but many weeknights. And I was so completely unaware of my own lack of talent that I projected other people were unaware of it too. And by the time they caught on, the dance was over and I was caught in the money. And there was a wonderful magical thing that was going on in the 60s with this music that was coming from England. And it was, I'd been listening to rock and roll since the early 50s, and I was totally enamored with rock and roll. The family moved to Nebraska, which was like moving to the 12th century. But at nighttime, I could hear radio stations from like Shreveport, Louisiana, and Chicago's WLS, and I could hear this wonderful, wonderful music. And I really loved what was then known as rhythm and blues. Okay, so music was my magic. Music transported me. As soon as I was old enough to get a guitar, I got a guitar and started playing. But when the Beatles came on the scene, something else was going on. And it may sound corny, and you may not be able to identify with the power of a pop group, but something very unusual was going on. And about the same time, the psychedelic phenomena was growing, especially on the West Coast, and people were talking about taking this chemical and seeing God, and the articles I was reading had serious input from normal spiritual characters like Tibetan Buddhists, and they were taking this very seriously. And I thought, this, I think, is what I'm looking for. Because from the time I was a little kid, I knew the God that they talked to me in Sunday school about was, well, with all due respect, bullshit. Okay? I couldn't believe grown-ups believe that. And at first I was thinking, well, they're just telling kids this. You know, because you tell kids all sorts of stuff like that. But once I realized they actually meant it, I go, you've got to be joking. You know? But I still had this spiritual impulse, because I had the first 3 years of my life was spent in the crib. As soon as I started to walk, I started to limp. I had a bone disease. They put me back in the crib and hoped that I would outgrow the disease. It was Perthes hip disease, they call it. And I could drift in and out of consciousness 24 hours a day. I didn't sleep through the night and wake up in the day. No, every other 10 minutes I was asleep. 20 all day long. 20, and it was great. I loved it. Okay. And I had all these pre-infantile memories, pre-linguistic memories, and thoughts. And I thought about myself as a monad of consciousness early on. And the idea that you could take a pill and somehow all of this would go whoa really fascinated me. As soon as I graduated from high school, moved to California. The second or third night I was in Southern California, I found a little folk music club in Belmont Shore, California. I played a set there. Between sets, I went into the bathroom, and there was a good-looking surfer-type guy just standing right by the urinal, just like an angel. And he said, "Would you like to buy some LSD?" And I said, "I sure would." And for $5, I got a capsule. Okay, and I took that and then rushed home before it came on. And I spent the next, a good 8 hours tearing myself down and putting myself back together. And I won't bore you with an I saw God on acid story, but I did. As a matter of fact, during one of those times where you stand in front of the bathroom mirror for 30,000 years, I saw more or less the supreme deity in my own face, in my own eye. And I knew right then that knowing myself was going to be the only thing in the universe worth pursuing. That's what all of this was about. At the same time, this wonderful music was starting to come from England, especially. And the Beatles, my heroes, while listening to their music, it seemed like they were more than hymns. It sounded like deity itself was speaking to me directly through their music. And I know that sounds really crazy and schizophrenic and all of that stuff. Well, maybe it is. But there was a whole culture of other kids, especially my age, that were going, "Hey, you ever think that it sounds like they're singing hymns almost, you know?" And it was true. And maybe they were doing it on purpose, and maybe they weren't. Whatever it was, I was perceiving every artistic expression from especially that particular quarter as a direct communication of God to my soul. So when you get to that point, everything is a direct communication of God to your soul. And sort of taking after the Beatles, I thought, well, the yoga is the way to go, because the Maharishi, they were hooked up with the Maharishi. And I had read this book called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Anybody read that? It's a good book. It's a really good book. So I wanted to be a yogi. I continued to experiment with LSD, but it got to a point of where, okay, I've seen the show. Somehow or other, I've got to integrate this into my life. I've got to actually live there instead of visit there. And I don't think I can just, keep on taking chemicals to do that. As a matter of fact, it seemed like each experience, while bringing with it its own little unique rewards, I was getting diminishing returns on my experiences. So I fancied myself an Eastern mystic. We're looking at an 18-year-old kid here. So, and I'm thinking in terms of, you know, I would look really cool in an ochre robe. As a matter of fact, I think I'd look really cool sitting under a tree up in Oregon, maybe someplace, gaining enlightenment, sitting under a tree. That's what I want. I'd look really cool doing that. Oh, I think I'd shave my head because I'd be totally egoless, so I'll shave my head because it looks so cool. And it finally dawned on me, I've sort of got half of this together. Okay, the other half is, and I think I'd look cool doing that. Yeah, it's like I was hardwired to yearn for this internal illumination, and also hardwired to look at it externally. Does that make any sense? Okay. And so I envied the Eastern mindset, where it seemed like they're just hardwired just to sit down and be quiet. Okay, I'll just close my eyes and strip everything away. I'll just strip it away. No, I'm not that. Oh, no. My thoughts, no, I'm not those thoughts. Emotions, no, I'm not the emotions. Get it. Until they hit this smooth spot, this smooth place where they realize they're not their thoughts, they're not their emotions, they're not their body, they're not their, not even their astral bodies or any of those other sheaths that spoonbenders talk about. Until they hit that smooth point, and in the West, Fox News, of course, would call that nothing. You want to be nothing? Well, it isn't nothing. It's wall-to-wallness. Okay? But I can't strip stuff away. I like adding stuff. You know? And so right there, I sense that there's a difference between how Westerners, or at least this Westerner, is hardwired, and how Easterners, or the Easterners that I was studying, are hardwired. They're hardwired really well for going inward, stripping away till they hit the big smooth point. They hit the wall-to-wall consciousness, bingo, their consciousness becomes one with the big whatever it is consciousness. But in the West, we don't do that. We like stuff out in front of us. We like scripture. We like priests and stuff telling us what to think. That isn't necessarily bad. It's just, it has been abused for a long time. We like playing with stuff. We like dressing up and strutting around in the dark. Okay? We like incense that makes us smell cool stuff. We like swords and weapons and colors and freaky little things that crawl up on you, and we like stuff like that. We resonate to it. And it's the exact same stuff, only we've pulled it. In PowerPoint, you can take an image, like you can take an image of a triangle with its apex pointing up, and you can grab the point of the triangle and pull it down till it inverts itself out the other end. Well, that's just exactly what the difference between Western and Eastern mysticism is. Western magic, Eastern mysticism. We're grabbing the same thing, only we're pulling it out right in front of us. Because, you know, there is no outside of us. It's all in us. And every one of us is hardwired differently. And with what I'll be talking mostly about Western magical traditions. Okay, but and I've got the three different kind of things. There's the Enochian magic of John Dee over there. His eyes follow you across the room. Don't look at me like that. And the Goetic circle and triangle, and the Kabbalistic tree of life. These are the main pillars of my magical career. Now, you may have other things. You may work with another pantheon of deities. You may work with runes. You may allow wild and crazy things, let them ride you at night around your chicken blood spattered bedroom. But whatever you do, I'm just asking you to apply whatever it is you do to my comments today. Let's start with the Kabbalah. Is there anybody here that absolutely has never heard that word before, and that you just wandered in here thinking that it's some kind of a Jehovah's Witness thing? Yeah. Okay. Hermetic Kabbalah or Magic Kabbalah does not get much respect among traditional Orthodox Kabbalists, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. You're chicken Kabbalist. So I'm not going to go get into a bunch of exegesis on Bible verses and stuff like that, because you eventually can. But we got to start out, if we're going to integrate magic into our lives and our lives into magic, we have to at least start with pretending we know who we are. Above the doors of the ancient temples, tradition tells us, it said, "Know thyself." So the neophyte is coming up, he's got his lunchbox, he's going into the temple, and it says, "Know thyself." It's like the first thing you're told, know thyself. Well, fat freaking chance. Knowing yourself will be the last thing that happens to you in the last little millisecond before your consciousness dissolves into Godhead. It's the last thing that's going to happen to you. Know yourself. Jeez. Your consciousness is finally going to get so big that you go, oh, that's that's what I am. Okay. But we got to pretend we know who we are. We got to start somewhere. It's like everybody, let's just start, everybody in the world, with them, we're all asleep. Consciousness-wise, we're relatively all asleep. And the first step in waking up is pretending you know who you are. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but most people don't even pretend they know who they are. In magic, you start. One of the first things you do is give yourself a motto, a magical name. And that's the first step in integrating magic into your life. And the reason is, I'm going to pretend I know who I am. And the magic motto, you're supposed to think of something that is the highest spiritual concept that you can think of, and then identify with it. I am Frater, it feels good to feel good. And then you put it into Latin. Bene filum tum. I am Frater, the mind of God. And they always sound pretentious. Okay, that's good. Doesn't matter. Because you keep that motto until you have a higher concept, spiritual concept of yourself and deity, and then you change mottos. See, it's like pretending you know who you are. The next thing is you've got to pretend you know where you are. It's no big thing, but nobody else is even pretending they know where they are. That's why we learn the pentagram rituals and the hexagram rituals. Oh, at first you think I'm doing it to protect myself against all of the evil spirits in the world that are really paranoid that Frater, it feels good to feel good, is getting ready to have power over me. Let's get him. Give me a break. But anyway, that's what you think. And so the Pentagram Ritual is going to protect you from all of the jealous evil spirits that don't want you to control the universe. But what you're really doing is pretending you know where you are. The Pentagram Ritual, with its 4 elements and spirit up at the top here, is really to put you in a 3-dimensional universe with an up and a down and a north and a south and an east and a west. You become master of your flat earth. That's exactly what you're doing. And you're getting comfortable being master of your flat earth temple. It's not very accurate, but it's a start. You're pretending that the earth is flat, because just look at it out there. It looks flat. Pretend you're there. Okay? The hexagram ritual after that expands your consciousness. Instead of thinking of yourself being a master of north, south, east, and west, all of a sudden you've expanded your consciousness to where you're identifying with the sun, surrounded by the belt of the zodiac. Isn't that that's quite a pill. That's quite a psychedelic pill to take. And if you can identify with the pentagram and then improve it with the hexagram, you've expanded your mind and placed yourself in a more accurate place in the universe. You've integrated yourself in a bigger universe. Does that make sense?